The next station is Chorleywood.
Hello again, we're out on the tube. This time on the Metropolitan line. We've been slowly counting down the least used stations on every line. It's the turn of the penultimate one on the Metropolitan. We're going to Chorleywood. Chorleywood is in Zone 7 and is actually in Hertfordshire, one of the 8 Metropolitan line stations not actually in Greater London. It opened in 1889, originally as Chorley Wood, 2 words, with Metropolitan Railway steam trains, and today is served not just by the Underground, but is part of the National Rail network as well, with a half-hourly Chiltern service here running between Marylebone and Aylesbury. And straight away, my attention is drawn from the main entrance to the rear entrance that leads out to the car park. Now here at the rear end of the northbound platform, not only is there a gorgeous old sign saying for the station car park, there's also the old signal box down the end here. There's a brilliant little point here where back in cash days you had to leave your unpaid fare. So if you hadn't paid for your ticket, you'd just dump your money in. I wonder if it still works. The exit on this side leads out to a car park and this large step-free ramp, and then some steps down this alleyway, which I find strange because nowhere nearby is there a roundel or even a sign saying Underground. And that brings you out to here, like a little back side street around the back of the station. There's a Costa Coffee and shops, but there's no sign. Even this sign here doesn't say to the tube station. It's like a hidden way into the tube station that you never knew was here. Back at the station, it was time to count the steps on the footbridge between platforms. Except, hang on, I can't, because there isn't a footbridge. Instead, there's a subway with quite steep ramps down to take you under the tracks instead. Oh, it's going to echo because I've gone inside the subway. You saw there at the car park, there's the ramp for step-free access, but on the tube map, it's a full blue blob, meaning step-free access to both sides. I'm wondering whether they consider this rather steep ramp, which goes down and through here, to be a way of getting step-free access to both sides, because it's quite steep. It's actually 10 degrees steep, in case you were wondering. Chiltern trains continue to rumble through. There's old signage here that still refers to British Rail, and it's also one of those rare tube stations that publishes a complete timetable of all its trains, Tube in blue, Chiltern in red. But what about facilities? Well, yes, there's a ticket hall with a gate line with ticket machines, dot matrix displays, a bike rack, and yes, of course, my favourite, a litter bin. And yes, there's a toilet, quite a clean one too. I should go wash my hands. Anyway, my absolute favourite thing about Chorleywood is this. The waiting room on the southbound platform. It's just got these really old, nice red wooden benches, a creaky door. The labyrinth is there. On a winter's day, it's very welcome. It's also got a handy whiteboard up here, which is great for projecting passenger stats on. As per other stations, as it's a national rail station with Chiltern trains, presumably through where the oyster is touched in and touched out, they can tell which are tube passengers and which are national rail Chiltern passengers, because the figures are listed separately. If you look on the Wikipedia page, it lists them as different entries. Anyway, for the last 4 years, the passengers at Chorleywood, tube only, have been around about the 1 million mark fairly steadily, but in 2017 it lost 250,000 down to just 0.75 million passengers. And I don't know why. The Chiltern National Rail stats have been fairly steady around 0.6, 0.7, fallen slightly recently to 0.5 of a million. But why the tube passengers have decreased by a quarter, don't know. So here's how it stacks up against the other lines in this series to date. Chorleywood gets 750,026 tube passengers per year, and there's only one line left to go now. Overall, it does have a quaint charm to it. I think this is the first tube station in this series. Maybe North Ealing was a little bit quaint, but this, out in the suburbs, not even in London, definitely quaint. Definitely. So there you go, that's your least used station on the Metropolitan line, which means we have just one more station and one more line to do. It is, of course, the turn of the Central line. Loads of you already know what it is. Press subscribe and we'll do it very soon. We'll find out the least used station, not just on that line, but of course on the whole of the Underground.